PCC, I get Portland Community College.
Right? It makes me mad. Okay,
I'm
I
like,
just gotta hit start recording. So if anyone has anything scandalous to do, time to stop.
yeah, we're not playing David's music now.
Good, let me just pull up the agenda with everyone and we can get started. I hate the little Zoom bar always gets in my way as soon as I pull this thing out.
We're not playing David's music now.
All right, can everyone see the agenda?
Wow, there are 3 people watching us. I'm excited.
Is everyone able to see this clearly before I get started? Somebody? All right, in this case, I'd like to call this meeting to order at 12:09 p.m. and we'll begin with roll call. Myself, I am here. Chris?
Here.
Christina?
Here.
Luis?
Here.
Here.
Ellie?
Here.
Emmanuel?
Present.
Kyle?
Here.
David?
I'm here.
We're all here. Before we proceed any further, I would like to acknowledge that we are conducting business on the native land of the Hahamanga tribe of the Tonga Nation and offer a moment of silence for those who came before us. Moving on to approval of agenda for September 2nd, 2020. You all have the agenda, but it's here in front of you too. If there's anything that needs to be changed or edited, let me know now. If not, then I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as is.
I first.
Second motion.
Okay, we have a first by Louise and a second by Emmanuel. I'll bring it to a roll call vote. Chris?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Luis?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
Jasmine?
Aye.
Ellie?
Aye.
Emmanuel?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
All right, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to approval of minutes of August 26th. Right here. If everything looks good on the minutes, then I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
A motion to approve.
First by
And
Kyle
second.
and a second by Louise. Bring it to a roll call vote. Chris?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Louise?
Aye. Aye.
Jasmine?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
Side of the force is calling you.
Kelly?
Aye.
Emmanuel?
Aye.
Kyle, I didn't hear.
Aye.
David?
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to public comment on non-agenda items. Carrie, since we have people on the YouTube, is there any public comment at this point? Okay, guys, we have no public comments. Moving on to agenda item 3, instructions and reports. And I'll go based off what I see on my screen. So Louise, you get to go first.
All right, let me just pull it up.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, someone want to say something, or I'm good?
You're good.
Okay. So we finished Welcome Week last week, so that's really good. Personally, I'm looking towards like midterms week and like taking stuff that I learned from this last week into that. And then I am also working on a graphic for ClubRush right now, which I sent to Chris already. And currently I am talking to Dan from the Institutional Effectiveness Committee. I think they're from there on data about how like students are getting affected by COVID and online learning so that we can successfully like ask the right questions when we do student surveys in the future. And Dan said that the data should be ready by early next week. So I'll keep you updated on that next week.
Thank you, Louise. Chris, do you have anything you'd like to report?
Yeah, so we're getting ready to launch the Club Rush website next Tuesday, the day after Labor Day. So things are almost done on that front. I don't know. Does anyone want to take a look at it? I mean, it's pretty much finalized. We just need to launch it. So I don't know if you all want a preview of what we've been working on, if you want to wait. Okay, well, I'll just move on then. That's okay. Other than Club Rush, we're going ahead and marketing this. So thank you, Louise, for taking the initiative to create a flyer. We're going to go ahead and send that out, obviously, on our social media channels. I'm talking with getting this blasted out in a campus-wide email so that students will be redirected to this. And I'm also planning on talking with Sheila Rose, the Pathways people, about how to market it to that group of students too. So, you know, moving along on that side of things. The first ICC meeting is this Friday. So if any of you want to come, I will send an email out with the Zoom link inviting you all to come and introduce yourselves as the new board for this year. I made a last minute change to the agenda this morning and I reposted it, actually adding something that we're going to talk about today in our agenda, which is the privacy policy. And I just figured since ICC is kind of a captive audience, if any of you wanted to go ahead and join in on that discussion item on Friday and kind of lead that, feel free to come. But yeah, ICC stuff is moving forward with their meetings. In terms of the training stuff, I'm lagging a little bit behind admittedly on that, but you know, my focus is on getting this website out. So, you know, progress is still being made. I have a meeting planned with Carrie and Jordan next week to talk about what we can do to produce some content for that. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Oh, there is one meeting that I have scheduled with Candace Jones tomorrow, along with Emmanuel will be attending that meeting, and we're going to be talking about the student tech survey and the questions that are going out for that. So if any of you want to attend, please ask either of us so we can send you the invite and forward that along to you if you want to talk about that. So that's pretty much it for me though.
Thank you, Chris. David, do you have anything you'd like to report?
Not so much. So me and Mackenzie on Monday had a meeting with President Erica and her executive committee. And we went over a few student issues that we've been talking about the past few weeks. We mentioned the use of Proctorial and why students weren't consulted in that decision to use it. We brought up parking lot Wi-Fi, and I asked whether this college had plans to open up the campus restrooms to hopefully sustain students at the college for longer periods of time. Didn't really get a straight answer, but I think the only thing in terms of restrooms is that they're going to open them up for a short period of time for the classes that are on session on campus at the moment. And also that's what the college intends on doing with the COVID-19 block grant. I also didn't get a straight answer with that, but the answer I got was that they're going to discuss that at the Budget Resource Allocation Committee meeting. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, David. Kyle, do you have anything you'd like to report?
Yes. The past things I've been doing as I've been reviewing the Constitution and creating a new section for the lobby fee appropriation. I recently got information from Carrie through, obviously, Kelly as a representative of Carrie to get this information. This is from 25 years ago. So I'm going to update it and change it. I've started the preliminary reading it over and drafting out a game plan for exactly the things that need to be changed. I've done that. And I also met with Jordan and Christina to create a new budget format, which was put into an Excel sheet and sent out to everybody. And lastly, I reviewed the budget spending guidelines and made my own notes for further review. I haven't made any set in stone changes, but it will be released as soon as I figure out anything that definitively needs to be changed and altered.
Kyle, Alex, do you have anything you'd like to report?
So welcome week was last week. So now I'm just doing like the back end of housekeeping things that I was associated with that, like contacting everyone that participated, sending out thank yous. And then
I realized that I do need a lot more help than I thought. So my committee apps will be out by the end of the week, hopefully. And then I am starting to plan Spirit Week, getting a skeleton that should be ready in the next few weeks. Looking for the end of October, beginning of November time to host that event. And I think that's all I have that I'm working on right now.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. Christina, do you have anything you'd like to report?
Okay, so on Monday, I met with a couple of people. I met with Jordan and Kyle about the budget, which Kyle already went over. And I also met with Jasmine and Jordan, and I think Kyle, about the privacy issues with Zoom and Proctorio. And I presented that kind of at the Academic Senate meeting, which I attended. The Academic Senate meeting was really informative, and they discussed about how winter was going to be online now, and how they were implementing a lot of things. And I've also contacted Dr. Hennes about the privacy issues, and he did send me, or he just sent me, the group that is doing research on how they're gonna go forward with like the cheating browsers. So I'm hoping to get into contact with him soon about how we can meet up and how we can bring them to talk to AS.
Thank you, Christina. Emmanuel, do you have anything you would like to report?
Yes, hello everyone. So within this last week, I've reached out to many of my professors and asked if they'd be willing to promote any of our content that we have, whether it's our agenda, any events coming up. All of them seem willing. If anyone is able to provide me any additional material that you'd like to share, we'd be doing that. I've also been planning on enrolling PCC and anybody who would like to attend individually to something called the Project Green Challenge. I was informed of this great idea by Carrie, which is pretty much a social media contest, in a sense, to promote environmental awareness. It consists of nearly 60,000 students, and you would receive a challenge at around 6 a.m. for the whole month of October, and you have 24 hours to complete each assignment per day. Also, after attending the BRAC and facilities meeting this past week, I've requested information from Lisette Barnhart in order to be able to give my input respectfully and effectively when it comes to prioritization. Besides that, just received that yesterday, and I am now reviewing that. That is it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Jasmine, do you have anything you'd like to report?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I hope you all have had an opportunity to get some rest in between the first and second week of classes. I know we're all still adapting to this whole thing, but I do have some stuff to report. I met with a few programs on campus, and some of them being Puente, Core, Ujima, and Carrie and myself, and Jordan. To talk about the Black and Brown Unity event, and it turned out it had a really, really good turnout. I'm actually really excited to be presenting our future or our planning for the event. We are planning a solidarity building event across campus with multi-program collaborations, and it's going to be a series of events. Hopefully, I know, not hopefully, but it will be a series of events during the month of October. So I will keep you all in the loop for that. Something else that I've been working on is the student privacy rights student privacy rights meeting with Christina, Jordan, Kyle, and myself. I have created a form that will be sent out to students on just general student concerns about their privacy or them using Proctorial if that has impacted their educational or academic journeys. And then, yeah, so I have been working on my committee apps as well, and hopefully those will be ready by Friday. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Last but not least, Kelly, do you have anything you'd like to report?
Yeah, so that past Friday, hopefully it was a success. You guys can gauge it for those who actually came to the voter registration event. I thought it was pretty interesting. We had like 4 students on there, which is better than nobody, at least. The lobby fee fund committee, we're trying to get that started because I do need to approve of my extremely large budget. So there's 2 people that I have on here in addition to Mackenzie and Louise, is David and Christina. I know that Alex is interested, so if he wants to switch out with one of them, that's totally fine too. Just let Mackenzie know so she can appoint you at our next meeting. And then Constitution Day, it's in the works. We're thinking of maybe doing vouchers for boba, something like that, hopefully, or maybe producing agendas or buying agendas from the bookstore as incentives for coming. And also, lastly, working on the international students letter, which will be presented today as an update to the ICE regulations. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Moving on to my own reports. Oh, I got a couple things going on. Last week, I attended a flea market committee with Chris, actually, and thankfully, Chris was able to fight for students to have scholarships continued. We can thank him for that. I have a meeting later on today with Carrie and Dean Cobb, actually, for a hiring committee that we're sitting in on, so that's going to be plenty of fun. Like David mentioned, we had a meeting with President Erica and her executive team where we discussed things such as the Wi-Fi, hotspots, bathroom, and Proctorial. Not the most straightforward answers. They did try to give what they could while not being direct, but that's okay. It did get out there to them, so we're making progress on that. Everyone's been sending me their committee apps if they've had it completed or if they've been working on it, so thank you all for keeping me updated with that. Like I've mentioned before, if you need any help with your apps, you can come to me, you can come to David. We've done this before, and so we are more than willing to help you in any way. Even if it seems like some minor little thing, trust me, we've been there and we can help you with it. Also, just a little note, I know I'm guilty of this myself. We all need to be updating our board reports every week, preferably before you attend a meeting. It helps you when you're giving your board report now so you can be well thought out and just keep things concise. And also because it does get posted to the website, and so our reports are there. And if we don't have anything, it doesn't look very good. And point is, we need to be getting our board reports in. Other than that, that's all I have for my report today. And if that's all we have, then we can move on to advisor reports.
Okay, Dean Cobb can't be here today because she's putting together a report. And I too am guilty about the advisor, about typing it in, so I'm reading it off because I typed a bunch of stuff in. I've been talking to all of you, and I have to echo what Mackenzie says. You all have to get your applications out. People are asking, is AS still around, because they don't see anything out there. And I know right now it seems like the only place we have to put stuff out is through Instagram. So we need to be using that. We need to be blasting that. We need to be putting stuff, and I say I'm going to put it on you. You all need to go to PCC Book Sale and have links and put it out there and get people to know that you're still active and you're doing things. And I know it's hard because we don't have a coordinator and a vice president for publicity, but step up and take the initiative. Like I said, Louise and David all have the password, and it helps them if you go to Canva, create a Instagram post and send it to them, and then they can post it, right? We need to be putting stuff out there, and your committee apps need to go out. So I'm going to tell you all, you have to have them out. So there should be no excuse, no excuse. And again, like Mackenzie says, if you have questions, send them to me. If you're afraid because you don't have your rubric done, that's okay. Put your apps out because now we can work on the rubric. If you wait till it's all done, it's going to be too late. A lot of you are talking about doing surveys, but I really would like you all to kind of hold off until you have a little bit of training. I've asked IPRO, Institutional Planning and Research Office, and I think Louise has already met with them. We have a researcher named Dan, who I think is fantastic. I've asked if we can arrange a quick 30 to 40 minute just conversation on what is a survey, what are some valid questions, because it doesn't do you any good if you ask a survey that doesn't have valid questions in it, because you're not going to get the answers you want. So I've asked her to kind of come in and tell you what they have in terms of, they've run a lot of surveys, and then what makes a good survey. So I'll send out a doodle. Well, probably it's going to be like a Friday, since that was the day that we all have. I don't know if that still works for you all, but I'll send something out. So when you get that doodle, please turn it in. I think a lot of your kind of folks that you work with, your teammates here, will be doing a lot of doodles for time to go to meetings. I know Kelly will be sending out one or two. Dean Cobb will be sending out one or two. And when we get these surveys, even if you can't participate, fill it out so we know. The whole technological survey, we only had 7 people respond, and we closed it because we had to go to get those things met. So I'm assuming that 3 of you have no needs whatsoever because you didn't respond. So when you get these surveys, do me a favor and do your fellow VPs a favor. Take 2 minutes and do them right there and then, because people usually need this information. So please take some time and make sure that that gets done. I'm in the closing phase of purchasing your desktops here at AS usually get updated every about 3 or 4 years. It's been a while, so now we are updating. I was going to purchase desktops. We had actually had that all set up, but then we ran out of time with the pandemic. So this year I've talked to Candace, who we all love, who when we come back on campus, you all need to go buy her a cupcake, because she's just immediately responded to this. And so we're going to now, instead of laptops, she's talked to me about, we're going to purchase, desktops. We're purchasing laptops for everyone. And they're going to have docking stations. So the idea is hopefully that when you come back in the spring, it'll be locked down to your desk, but you're going to have a laptop that if you need to take it out, you can take it out. We'll check it out. And also it's available for the lobby committee to check out when they travel. So they're going to have laptops that have docking stations, so you'll be able to use them at your desk with your keyboards and your monitors. So that's coming in. Also, we'll get 6 hotspots. And I think 3 or 4 of you have told me that you needed hotspots. Those you can actually check out and take to your home and use at home, as well as when Jordan gets all of the other technical equipment that people requested. You'll all have to sign those things out, and then those things do not belong to you. They belong to AS, and they'll come back in the end of the year. So just so you also know what's kind of going on, a couple of things. The Chancellor just released some new budget information. It's not looking good. I will pull down, I forgot, they published the slide deck. It was this morning at a 9 o'clock meeting. When the slide deck gets published, I'll pull the slide deck and set it out to you. It kind of gives the projections for where we are money-wise. And while sometimes that's an abstract thing, it's just something for you to consider, because that is the context in which people are making these decisions. So when we talk about what's happening with the COVID money, that money needs to be spent by December. You know, they are also looking 18 months down the line, because that's when we expect the impact of what's happening now with COVID to hit us in the budget. So I'll give you all that information so you have context, so you understand why decisions are being made, why they're being made. Also, as an update, in case any of your representatives or your students talk to you, students who can't come onto campus, mainly the ones who are doing the auto tech and any hands-on lab, everyone is, and staff included, everyone is being required to fill out an app, a survey. For those of you that work in places that make you do it, you might be familiar. It gets sent to us every morning at 4 a.m. and we just have to fill it in before we come to campus. So your students may be filling that. It's just a symptom checker. So if folks are asking about that, then that's what's going on with that. So other than that, Jordan, you got anything?
Yeah, sorry. Wow, I was reading something. So as Jasmine said earlier, I met with her, Christina, and Kyle to discuss privacy issues with students. So what came out of that was basically, as Carrie had mentioned before, we need to get data, we need to get, survey and all that stuff. And I think it's really good that Carrie's bringing in somebody to kind of go over what that is about. So that way Jasmine and whoever needs to fill out a survey can do it most efficiently and ask the right questions. And then Christina, like she said, mentioned that she took it to Academic Senate. And so we're just trying to get our feelers out for what's out there, options, and then how we can get data and use that in order to either make a statement or something in support of students. let's see. I did attend the event that Jasmine put on Zoom for Black and Brown Unity, or what we're calling, what are we calling it now, Jasmine? I forgot. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's a solidarity building.
Yeah, so it's solidarity building. It went really well. I'm really, really excited for it. So look at some really awesome things to come out of that group. Also, there was something else I had to say. Oh yeah, so I'm working on getting just like an itemized budget. I sent you all the budget that me, Christina, and Kyle worked on. It was just a simple formatting to an Excel spreadsheet, but I'm gonna try to work on an itemized one with the paper that Carrie had sent out. So that way it's just a little bit easier to like see individually what you might want to spend the money on and all that stuff. And then whoever comes in as the business affairs individual can go ahead and fill that out. Yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it. Make sure you're eating, sleeping, resting, doing all that wonderful stuff. Yeah, and that's it for me.
Mac, I forgot one thing. Just a huge shout out to Louise and Alex for being the ones to break the ice and doing Welcome Week. I know it was hard. There was a lot of unknowns and you all broke the ice. So congratulations. I know it was hard. I appreciate the hard work. And my opinion is from now on, you've got it. We've learned from this. There's a few things that we need to fix, but certainly you all need to be thankful and thank them because it was hard. It was a little complex. There's a lot of unknowns that they had to negotiate. So thank you and shout out to both of them because it was good. You know, it wasn't as big as we wanted it. It wasn't like the presents where we had to give out 35 pizzas from Costco. For that, I am grateful. I don't have to smell like a pizza, but I do miss it. And Alex and Louise, thank you for being the ones to break the ice and do that. So good job to you all.
Yes, like Carrie said, I can imagine how stressful that must have been for you too, especially with the first week of your classes. You're trying to figure everything out. So really, thank you both for being our little guinea pigs for this. We'll love you forever. So I'll go ahead and move on to the next agenda item, shared governance discussion. If anyone had anything they wanted to discuss at this point that was discussed in the shared governance meetings or you needed clarification on something, now's the time you can speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to expand on, I actually totally forgot about the flea market meeting that we had, Mackenzie. Yeah, so to kind of detail, I guess, kind of what happened, the flea market pays for a lot of things, including scholarships here on campus. The flea market scholarship, obviously in its namesake. Originally, look at the agenda again if I can pull it up. Originally if it was like a regular semester, I believe it was $50,000 that was budgeted for scholarships. And during the meeting, it was discussed that they would take that entirely away because, you know, of COVID and the fact that the flea market is closed. So, you know, I was arguing that I felt that wasn't fair. And you know, something is better than nothing, and I feel like students really need the money now more than ever. In a situation like this where they might be unemployed or they might be on hard times. So it was negotiated down to $20,000. I mean, it's still something, and I still want to keep the continuity, which is kind of part of my argument. But just letting you all know, that was how kind of the conversation went. I don't know if there's any questions about that, or Mackenzie, if you want to expand on it.
I guess to further on that, what was talked about in the meeting, surprisingly, they did consider our AS stipends scholarships because it is pretty much a donation for us to be getting these stipends from the flea market. They also discussed, I forgot to mention this in my report, they also mentioned that they are looking into starting a virtual flea market that are going to have different tiers that vendors can go through. It's not going to be as many vendors as before, especially since a lot of them are older, but some of these tiers are set up to try and help out their little community there. They're not sure when we can potentially reopen the flea markets. My heart breaks for that because I love working the flea market. But yeah, like Chris said, at first they really didn't want to continue the scholarships, but Chris was able to place the argument to keep some scholarships going. And so big shout out to him for that. But yeah, I think that was everything that was discussed at that meeting, unless Chris, are we missing anything?
No, that was pretty much it. I guess a lot of other stuff was like flea market business, but I just want to kind of talk about how it pertains to students and AS. So
bring it up, Chris. Did anybody else have something that they want to bring up under this agenda item, whether we said or anything else?
So just also a preface to this, because this is a shared governance discussion, this is a time that we can actually go back and forth and ask questions. When you do things in your report, you're reporting out and you're not allowed to have a dialogue. So if there's things that things that happen in people's committees that they want opinions on, now's the time to also do this. But also I will say that you've got a huge agenda, but it's always good. I'm glad you all went to meetings. I'm glad we went to shared governance meetings today. This is really great.
So with a time crunch, did anybody have something they want to throw in real quick, or should we move on to the next action? Hearing nothing, we'll be moving on to action items. So we'll start with action item A, vacancy appointment timeline, which I will hand the floor over to David for this. And I'll bring it down.
Alrighty, do you have the okay, cool. Yeah, so I just made a quick timeline. I put the priority deadline at September 21st. And then the work groups would be reviewing and grading applications according to a rubric that we established at this meeting on the 22nd. And then the 24th, the AS president will send out requests for interviews who are eligible, for applicants who are eligible. And then the 28th, the selected individuals would all begin interviewing so that we have time to set up interview questions and stuff. And then on October 2nd, acceptance and rejection emails would be sent out, and the people who are selected would be confirmed at our October 7th board meeting. But I'm open to any suggestions if this timeline doesn't work out.
So if there's no discussion on this item, which, okay.
One sec. So just to clarify, the application priority deadline, it says it's rolling, as in, are we going to be continuing to receive applications after that point, even after we begin reviewing applications?
Yeah, so I would say I think probably the latest that we could accept an application would be probably the 23rd.
I would agree with that, or somewhere along those lines, but we need to articulate that, because even though we have a priority deadline, we should have like an actual deadline, which we tell people about. Because if we set like a loose rolling application deadline, you're going to get people maybe like at the end of our reviewing session submitting applications.
Rolling also means if at the end of this process we don't select anyone, we're still accepting applications afterwards. If people turn it in after, they're just not going to get an interview, and we're going to select people from the pool that we get. But at this point, I think we need to make a decision, and we need to appoint these people as soon as possible.
Any further discussion, questions, comments, concerns on this?
I guess my only question would be, are the interviews going to start the week of the 2nd or okay, I see the 24th. Okay, cool. And all right, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to make this visual so everyone understood like what the process is and all the dates and everything.
I have a question. What would a rejection email look like?
Here, I could pull up what.
Stop sharing your screen.
So last year we had to do this with all of our committee applications, and I still have the drafts because we had to make a template. But if we could stop sharing your screen really quick.
Yeah, David, I don't know if you have Alex's last year, but Alex Sarkisian made a good one.
So for like this one, so dear applicant, apologies for the late response. First of all, I would like to thank you for applying for ASPCC, committee, whatever. I really enjoyed reading your application, meeting you through interview as well. This year was an extremely competitive applicant pool, and unfortunately, I cannot offer you a position in said committee. We would have a template for everything, and we just put in the name. But not to make it impersonal, but like, you know, you can't just make a personal email for everyone.
I have the
Okay,
email where
thank
it's
you.
inviting to the interview too. So yeah, I have that information if anyone needs it.
Thanks, David.
And these applications are both for our committees and the folks that still in the vacant positions.
Or no, this isn't for committees. This is just for the vacant positions. The committees, that time. I mean, you can set up your own timeline if you'd like. That's pretty much up to your discretion.
Thank you.
For your own committees, it'll be up to you, and you can talk to your advisor too, and just figure out your own timeline and rubric. We of course can help you with it, but it doesn't necessarily have to go through us the way we're doing this. If that makes sense. Okay.
And in the past, folks have left their committee open all year, unless you're like crazy like Alex Sarkeesian and had 12 people from the go. But most people usually leave it open all year, and people can come and go.
Yeah, but for like, say Kyle, he has a timeline of when he needs to have people, because he needs to have an associate chief justice before the end of the semester. So yeah, so some people do have like a constitutional timelines and stuff.
Did anyone have any further discussion for this item, whether comment, question, concern?
I had a question just in regards to the whole vacancy. I was wondering if you guys knew how many people were interested, just so we can get an idea of like how large our pool is.
So I have all of the apps in my email. I need to count how many are for each position, but we have about like 6 or 8 applications right now sitting in email.
That's really good.
Because I sent out, I think I sent out about like 6 additional applications that I'm waiting to receive back that I'm going to follow up on. Well, we do have people interested, and we are going to keep promoting this on different platforms too. We're going to keep going with Instagram, Lantern Life. We're going to put it everywhere we can. So we'll be getting a lot of applications.
No, yeah, that's really good. So we won't be forced to pick the one person that applies.
Yeah, in the interest of time, we should consider approving this timeline. I can make the motion. I move to approve this timeline.
I second.
Second.
We had a first by David, second by, did I hear Jasmine first?
Yeah.
All right, and then I'll bring this to a vote. I'll do it based off how I see on my screen. Luis?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Aye.
Memo?
Aye.
Jasmine?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
I think that was, did I miss anyone? Some people's screens are moving. Okay. Motion passes unanimously then. At this point though, we do have a guest who has come in, and so I would like to suspend the order of the day so we can go ahead and get straight to our guest today. Wait, Carrie, do I need a second or anything like that? Or can I just say suspend the orders of the day?
So it's a motion, and it requires a second and a vote. And then the vote, I believe, is, David, is it majority or is it 2/3? Or Jordan? I think it's just majority.
Then I'd like to entertain a motion to suspend the orders of the day.
I'd like to entertain a motion to suspend the orders of the day.
So,
Okay, so I move that motion, and someone needs a second.
yes.
Ellie, did you
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and a second by Kyle. And we'll bring this to a vote. We'll go again based off how I see on my screen. Luis?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Lily? Aye. Christina?
Aye.
Manuel?
Aye.
Present?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. We have officially suspended the orders of the day, and I'd like to bring our attention to our lovely guest, Crystal Koros. So we can go ahead, and if you would like to introduce yourself to the group and what it is you're
Yes. Yay. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me here today. I appreciate your time. My name is Crystal Koros. I'm the Executive Director of Institutional Effectiveness here. I also happen to be something called the ALO, the Accreditation Liaison Officer for the college, which is the main reason I'm here today, is to talk to you about accreditation and the ICER, which is the Institutional Self-Evaluation Report. And I'm hoping that I can share my screen with you. Is that cool? Oh, hello, Mackenzie. Yeah, pull up a little, let me find it. Hold on a second. It's gonna be this one. There we go. See if I can see it now. Yes, okay. All right, can you folks see my screen?
Yes, I can see.
Yeah, all right, great, super. So there I am, Crystal Koros. You'll also see someone up above me there, because I always put her above me. That's Dr. Thea Alvarado. She is a sociology professor here, and she is the faculty accreditation coordinator. And she's normally with me on these little visits, but today she's doing something very important. She is getting her training in accreditation to do a site visit later this month. So she's training today, because she's going to do a site visit to Los Medanos Community College, and I'm training tomorrow because I'm going to do one for Cuesta College. Not that you needed to know all that, but just so you know, she was very disappointed she couldn't be here today. She really wanted to come. She was actually said to me, of all the ones I had to miss, this is the one I didn't want to miss. Actually, I don't think she trusted me to do it right, so that's okay too, because I can live with that. So let me just tell you a little bit about why we do accreditation and why it's important. These are the 4 big reasons. First of all, we cannot get Title IV funding, financial aid, unless we are an accredited institution. 2, colleges can refuse our transfer credits if we are not, well, your transfer credits, if we are not an accredited institution. It gives us what's called credibility in the community. We're known as an accredited, the quality of our education has been affirmed by a peer review team. And it makes us eligible for federal grant funds. And as you know, we have a lot of those, Title III, Title V, NSF, NIH. Those are all federal grant funds that we would not be eligible to receive unless we're an accredited institution. So we consider accreditation to be a college-wide function, and everybody needs to be a part of it. And my dear friend up there, Christopher, actually was on the accreditation standing committee last year as your representative, and he did a fantastic job. Chris didn't know what we were doing, but he always tried to help us, and that's very important. So I want to just throw out some acronyms, because the one thing you know about higher education is we are totally big on acronyms. You'll see that in the ICER, we actually did acronym lists at the end of each standard, because it can be very confusing for folks that are coming on. But these are the standards: ICER, Institutional Self-Evaluation Report. ACCJC is our accrediting body. ALO is me, Accreditation Liaison Officer. The FAC is the Faculty Accreditation Officer or Coordinator. And the last one is the Accreditation Standing Committee. All right, couple things. Accreditation in the ICER. Accreditation used to be a 6-year cycle. It is now going to move to a 7-year cycle, which means that every 7 years, we will do a comprehensive review and have a site visit. The ICER was written by and with contributions from over 100 people on campus. This includes your student representative, Christopher, yay, on the Accreditation Standing Committee. I think, Christopher, were you there when we went through every single standard and read our responses?
Yeah. Very long.
Yeah. You're a good man. You're a good man. And we reviewed over 1,000 pieces of evidence. And I'll talk a little bit more about those 1,000 pieces of evidence in a minute. So these are the four main standards. There's four main standards, and then there's what we call 127 micro standards. So standard 1 is mission, academic quality, and institutional effectiveness and integrity. 2 is student learning programs and support services. 3 is resources, human, physical, fiscal, and technology. And then the last one is leadership and governance. Now this year, in this particular cycle, they have added something new, and it's called the quality focused essay. And what they're asking us to do as an institution is pick 1 or 2 projects that we basically do an in-depth look at and develop a plan of action. And I'm going to talk about what ours are in a minute. But as it says, they want us to do a deeper focus, a more in-depth plan to improve institutional effectiveness. And we chose 2 topics. The first one is focusing on our part-time students, since on average about 65% of our students attend part-time. And we've identified in this QFE, which we'll talk about at a later meeting, the needs of our part-time students and making this campus a great learning environment for part-time students as you move through your education. And the second one is collegiality and communication across the campus. So doing a better job on how we communicate with each other, how we engage in discussions, and how we move the campus forward. Okay, here's our timeline for approval and certification. We've been very meticulous about this, Dr. Alvarado and I, to make sure that we get out to all the groups, but get everybody time to read the ICER. I will say that the ICER is a little more condensed than it has been in previous years, cycles, and that's a good thing. You are our first read and our second read. I asked Mackenzie to get you the ICER last week. So yeah, I know it's a big document and I know you're really, really busy. So we want to make sure you get ample time to go through it. Do I think you need to read every single word? Well, that's entirely up to you, but as Theo likes to point out to me, it's not really a page turner, but please feel free to do it if you want to. Ask me any questions that you may have about it. So what is your role in reviewing the ICER? Well, here are some questions we think you should ask yourself when you're reading. Is it honest? Have we been honest? One of the most important things to be is honest when you do an ICER. You got to tell the truth. You know, we have good things and we have bad things, but we want to be honest. Second, is it based in evidence? Earlier, I talked about us reviewing 1,000 pieces of evidence. This time around, when we wrote our institutional self-evaluation report, they and I were very clear with the committee that in previous cycles, we wrote the narrative and then we ran around and looked for the evidence to support the narrative. Now, you folks all know that's doing it backwards. So this time around, we went out, we said, find the evidence and then write the narrative. So when you read it this time, if you've seen any of the previous ones, the narratives are shorter and there's more evidence. And that's very important because it doesn't pay to just say a lot of stuff that you can't support with actual documentation of what we've done. So we want to make sure, the other thing is that we want to make sure we address the standard and only the standard. We don't want to go off on tangents. We don't want to do narratives that have nothing to do with the standard we're addressing, because you all know that's a bad thing. So we were very clear this time with who was writing is, are we addressing the standard? We wanted to be focused and concise. And then the last one is, it shouldn't be a bully pulpit. It's not the opportunity to complain about everything that we think is wrong with the institution. It's about addressing the standards, nor should it be Pollyanna where we sit and we talk about, we're just this fantastic institution and there's absolutely nothing wrong with us. That's never true, because there's always opportunities to grow and change. So we want a good balance and we want to be focused and concise. Any questions so far? All right, good, because you're all still awake? Yes, excellent, good, all right. Okay, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about the visit. So what you need to know is that a team of our peers will come in and first they're gonna review our ICER before they visit the college. And what that means is they're gonna get a copy of the ICER, they're gonna read it, they're gonna look at our evidence, they're gonna start writing what they call a team evaluation on whether or not they feel we have sufficiently addressed the standards and that we meet them. So team members may or may not, but most likely will ask to interview faculty, staff, students, and administrators during their visit. They may also ask to attend meetings. They may come to an associate students and might ask to attend your meeting, an academic senate, any shared governance. And a really big change is that it will most likely be virtual. So it will be done on Zoom, just like we're doing this. And that's a big change from past cycles. So we're not sure exactly how that's going to work, but we're going to find out. And last, we will have a PCC accreditation reference guide coming out shortly. And in it, we just kind of cover all the broad topics you need to know about accreditation. We'll have a little information in there about who our site team is, but it's just kind of that thing to say, you know, just some general big topics that you need to know about accreditation and site visits and about the college. All right, any questions? Come on, just one. I just need one.
Can you
I have a
specify on who the peers were reviewing the ICER?
Same. Who asked me that?
I did, Emmanuel.
Emmanuel, yes. You want to know what again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so who will be doing the team eval? Which peers were you referring to?
Good question. The only thing we know so far about our external site team is who the chair is going to be. And the chair is going to be Dr. Ed Bush. And he is the president at a college, and I should know which one, and I will get back to you, but he is a president at a community college. And we know he's chairing, but the other members of the team have not yet been identified for us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a
Sorry, you can go, Alex.
When you say pieces of evidence, what exactly are you looking at? Like, what does those evidence pieces look like?
Sure. Sometimes they are like our audit reports, our budget preparation documents. It can be meeting minutes. It can be policies or procedures that we have in place. It can be reports that we've produced. It's our educational master plan. It's our annual updates. It's our comprehensive program review documents. Anything that supports to say that we're fulfilling the standard. And all of that should be available in the ICER for you to click on, to look at. All those links should be live in there. Does that help anymore?
I know there were like multiple standards, like 1, 2, and 3. Can you like maybe help us review what each of them mean? Because I know Carrie here suggested that we would break it down, and I'm figuring maybe that would be easier to break it down.
Sorry about that. Let me get to the standards here. Here, standards, sure. Actually, I have a whole document I have to go. All right. So standard 1A, which is the mission, has 4 parts. Almost all of it is exclusively discussing our mission statement. And it's going to ask you questions like, does it say our broad educational purpose, our student population, what types of degrees and credentials we offer? Do we articulate our mission? Do we widely publish our mission? Do we use it to guide our decision making? That's standard 1A, which is mission. 1B is assuring academic quality and institutional effectiveness. This is about setting institutional set standards. It's about using assessment data and do we have processes in place that support student learning and assess student achievement. It's about evaluating our policies and procedures on a regular basis. And David has been knee deep in that for a while now. Do we broadly communicate the results of our assessment? Standard 1C is institutional integrity. This is about our catalogs. Are we providing students with accurate and timely information in a public manner that you can access? Are we ensuring that we're using and publishing our governing board policies and procedures? Are they somewhere people can access them? Do the faculty distinguish between personal conviction and professionally accepted views in a discipline, and they present data and information fairly and objectively? 2 is pretty self-evident. Student learning programs and support services. It's broken into 3 parts. Standard 2A is instructional programs. 2B is library and learning support services, and 2C is student support services. Standard 3 is all about resources. It's human resources, physical resources, technology resources, financial resources. And they ask a lot of questions, and particularly on resources, in regards to, are we using our resources to effectively support instruction and student achievement? And then the last one is leadership and governance. And 4A is decision-making roles and processes. So this is about basically our shared governance process. 4B is about our superintendent president and the role that they play in leading the institution. And then 4C is about our governing board. Does that help? Or is that too much information? It could be too much information. It's happened
A lot, but I mean, it's hard to not put it as a lot of information because that's essentially what the report is. It's just the nature of it. But I appreciate you going through all of it.
Yeah. You know, when I was doing my undergraduate work, I got convinced to take this class called technical writing. I don't know what came over me to do it. And my first assignment in the class was to describe a bleach bottle. It almost killed me because who can really describe a bleach bottle, right? I'll tell you what, it totally prepared me for writing an answer because this is basically a technical document. Any other questions?
Has there been a released like approximate timeline for this review, or is it just it's good they're going to come randomly at a certain time and it's going to take a random amount of time and you're not given any of that? Awesome.
No, they tell us. We know like right now that they scheduled our site visit for March 8th through the 11th. We know that's when it is. And what will happen prior to that is Dr. Antijonas will have a meeting with Ed Bush and they'll discuss the visit. He'll discuss the ICER. He'll discuss any questions he might have about the campus. I've also, because we're pretty sure that it's going to be virtual, I've talked to our strategic communications and marketing department about putting together a video for us to kind of give people a virtual tour of the campus since can't actually physically be here. But we do know, I mean, we know the date and we know who the chair of the team is. And by the way, I said I'm doing Cuesta College at the end of the month, and Erica is actually the chair of that committee. Dr. Antijonas.
Oh, for accreditation, so colleges evaluate each other then?
Yes.
Okay.
Our peer review team will be made up of administrators and faculties from other institutions.
Okay.
Which is good, right? Because they are our peers and they, for the most part, they're all from other California community colleges, although ACCJC does have the community colleges in Hawaii and then down in some island communities. But I usually will find out it will all be predominantly from California community colleges.
Who gets to go to Hawaii? Can we volunteer?
Yeah, you know who got to go to Hawaii? Krista Gogan got to go to Hawaii. She always got the good trips. I get things like Siskiyous, you know, or Deep Springs. I never get anything good. Erica and I were very excited about getting Cuesta because it's up in San Luis Obispo, but it's a virtual visit, so waste.
Next time.
So, hi, Ma Louise. You heard from Dan, right?
Yeah, Dan got back to me and it looks like the data will be ready early next week.
Okay, good.
Yeah, thank you so much for recommending me to Dan.
Yeah, she's a cool person. You'll like her. So any other questions about this? I'm going to come back at your next meeting and Dr. Alvarado will be with me and she will be happy to talk with you about this as well. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me.
Crystal.
Yes.
I'm looking at this timeline. So AS is, they got it last week. I sent it to Mackenzie. They're going to get it today. Their second week of September. What day do you want them to move to approve so they have a timeline?
Well, we were hoping, I don't know when your next meeting is. That's why we just put September. And I don't know how often you meet. How often do you meet?
They meet weekly.
So that if you want to go like 3 weeks out, if that's what you want to do, we're fine. We're just hoping to be able to send it to College Council by their meeting in October. So, I mean, I know you folks are busy and it's not like really interesting reading. So just let me know what you think will work. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
one.
Yes, hi.
Does this correlate or have anything to do with like the Aspen Award?
No, absolutely not related at all to the Aspen Award.
Okay, I was
That's
just
another
asking
thing
since
we
you
have to do.
mentioned October.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Aspen is coming to see us in October. This is an entirely different thing.
Great, thank you.
Mhm. Anything else? Do I see something? Trying to pay attention.
Next item, then?
Okay.
Z?
If that's all the discussion we have, then Crystal, we can move on to your next agenda item.
Say that again.
If this is all the discussion we have for this item, we can move on to your next agenda item.
That's great. Super. Are we on to my next agenda item? 2. I got 2 today. I'm so excited. So every year we do what's called the Fall Planning Retreat. And this year it's going to be on September 18th in the morning. It's probably going to run, we say 9 to 12. I don't think it's going to be that long. One of the things we do at this is we discuss the annual update process, which is our planning process. And this year we're going to add a couple of components to it. And the 2 components we're going to add is one, is we're going to ask the departments and units to reflect on the transition to remotes because of COVID-19. And also we're going to ask them to provide planning strategies for reopening the institution. So we're adding 2 new sections to it this year. And one of the things that we thought, well, let me just frame this. If we think that this is going to be the only time in our life that this happens, a pandemic happens, I think that we would be wrong, because this is really the 3rd one in like 20 years, I believe. It just hasn't hit the United States this hard before. I think we know in the science that this is going to happen again, which means that next time it would be really nice if we had a good plan, right? Something a little better than what we had this time. And that's one of the things we're going to be asking our departments and units to do in the annual update, is to think about, how did you do the transition to remote? What would have been a better way? What would you have done differently? And then planning for the future, and how do we reopen this institution? Because what Erica's going to want to do down the line is we need to have a much better disaster recovery and basically just a disaster plan, disaster preparedness plan. And now you're probably wondering, why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you all this because I'm afraid that if I don't have students come to the Fall Planning Retreat and talk to us about your experience transitioning to remote learning, and then give us some idea of how you think we should transition back to face-to-face, I'm afraid we won't do it right. So I'm hoping that some of you will consider coming to this meeting and we can talk about this more, maybe doing a panel to talk about your experience, about what it was like to go in remote learning, what you think we could have done better, what we could have done differently. And when we try to transition, which we will eventually do, back to face-to-face, what would you like to see us do? How would you like us to handle that? And what do you think would make the transition better for students? Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Just nodding is good. So do I have any volunteers? You don't have to tell me right now. You can email me. You can think about this. Or any thoughts?
So you'd like us to come and pretty much sit in on a panel and just share our experiences with remote learning? That's what you'd like from us?
Well, what I was hoping is, yeah, we could have a conversation, and maybe not right now because I know you have a full agenda, to talk about, you know, what you would be comfortable answering. And so we could pre-prep the questions and you would have answers for them, because I don't want to put you on the spot, you know, but I would love for you to come in and talk to these folks, because we're going to be inviting all of the new faculty division chairs to this meeting. Plus we'll have administrators there. And I really just want them to understand what the student experience was in this. So as we plan to go back to face-to-face, and then the next time we have something like this, we can do a better job.
I'd be more than interested on this panel if you need students.
Same here.
What was the times on September 18th that it was happening?
9 to noon.
Okay.
Crystal, are they invited to stay for the whole planning period, or did you just need them for the can they just go to the presentation piece?
Well, they're more than welcome to stay for the whole thing, because one of the things that we will be doing is Dr. Mike Bush will be doing a presentation for us on the budget and what it's looking like for us, what the state's saying, and how this, because this is definitely going to have an effect on students and instruction. So you're more than welcome to stay for the whole thing, but we will set aside a specific time for you to talk as a panel about your experiences with COVID-19.
When was the date again? Sorry.
It's okay. September 18th, Friday, September 18th.
Friday the 18th. Okay. Right, thank you.
Emmanuel, I'm gonna have to call you out on your comment there because I don't understand that. What does that mean?
Which comment?
The one that says we had smarter presidents.
Oh yeah. So you mentioned about the pandemic not reaching the United States.
I see. That president. Got it. Yeah, would be nice, but here we are. Anything else? Anybody willing to go? We'd love to hear from you. People are really nice. Trust me, they're really nice. Mackenzie, yeah, maybe. David, you and I spend a lot of quality time together anyway, so more is better. Actually, I'm going to see you that afternoon, right? Because we're doing the policy and procedure.
Yeah, 1:30.
Yeah. So you and I will have a full day if you go. It'll be fun.
This is on September
18th.
18th. Okay. And then is there a time?
Well, the full planning retreat runs from like 9 to 12, but I wouldn't make you, have to be there at 9. I'd probably have you on closer like to 10. Does that work?
Actually, I could probably make it if it's a Friday.
It is a Friday.
So why don't we try and make it a goal that you have less than quorum go? So your quorum right now is 8. So if 4 of you could go, you've got 2 right now. Why don't we just think about this? Give you a chance to look at your schedules. And then I'm going to challenge you all to interview your peers. So it's not just your representation, because again, remember, you represent the entire student body. So if you're gonna volunteer for this gig, you better know that I'm gonna make you go talk to people, your peers.
That would be great. I just really think it'll help so much if we can hear from you.
We appreciate being included on this too.
No, Thea and I are, we're huge fans. So I've always had very good relations with the AS board, and we're really working hard this year to make sure that you have representation on all the committees and that we can get you there and make this as comfortable as possible. We have found that once you start talking to us, we get a much better idea of how the world works. So.
And then Christina.
Sorry, Mackenzie, can't hear you.
Yeah.
I noticed, Christina, you had your hand up earlier. Can you hear me?
Oh, hello.
I was wondering if you could repeat the date again. I don't know what's wrong with my mic. I keep on going in and out. Yeah.
I'll put it in the chat, y'all.
Okay. Yeah, I could do that too. Sure.
So it's 9 to 12, right?
Yeah, 9 to 12, September 18th.
So why don't we do this? I think people need to look at their schedule. You have 2 people for sure. So I would highly suggest that IS give you 4, and we'll work on making sure that they're accurately prepared.
Yeah, and I'm happy to meet with you. If you want to do like a little Zoom meeting before that, we can sit down and talk about it more. Happy to do that.
That sounds good.
And then if you have any questions about the ICER that you don't want to ask here, but you want to ask me personally, please feel free to send either Thea and I both an email or one of us an email, whatever you want to do. We're happy to answer questions.
Crystal, can you throw your email in the chat again?
Of course I can.
Thank you.
How's that? Come find me.
And Crystal's great to work with.
Well, they're good days. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'm off to see the president, and we'll talk again soon. If you want me to come back next week or anything, answer questions, something comes up, please just let me know. I'm happy to be here.
Explain everything to us.
All right,
Crystal.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good day.
You too.
So now we're gonna backtrack and go back to action items. We were on action item B, constitutional amendment regarding VP Business Affairs. So Kyle, the floor is yours now.
Can you open up the constitutional amendment, Mackenzie? All right. Can you scroll down?
And can you blow it up a little bit too, please?
Yeah. Scroll down to clause 3.
My little bar thing is blocking, so.
Okay.
Perfect.
So essentially what I added was clause 3. We noticed that the vice president of business affairs didn't have a specific requirement for the accounting class. So essentially on this, it's all the requirements for running for election. And clause 2 already had a student trustee qualification. So I simply added a clause 3, which has a vice president of business affairs qualification. It seemed like it was the most logical way to put it into the Constitution. If anyone disagrees with that or wants to clash with that in any way, please, I'm really interested in hearing from you. But that's logically made the most sense to me to put it someplace in the Constitution. This would be the best place for it. The other thing it's doing is saying that they must be enrolled in a financial accounting class by the date of candidacy. Does anyone disagree with that? Okay, then that's all I have.
Oh wait,
Oh,
I
you
had
ready?
something to say.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. I was saying, will this also be, I guess, will this be also for the people that we are interviewing before? Because I know this wasn't on the Constitution before, and people may have applied to business affairs without knowing.
As a requirement. The issue with that is if we get them into office by fall and they do not have a class, they're not enrolled with a class, they're going to be acting as business affairs person for the rest of the fall term and be unable to take this until winter. So you have like a gap where you're going to have a person who's technically quote unquote non-suited to do this role if we believe that this is a requirement which needs to be fulfilled before you get into the role. So it would disqualify all those people applying without that, even though we didn't set it explicitly before that.
Wait, so to clarify, this is not going to apply to the person that we're going to be hiring for this academic year? No. Okay.
Kira says no. Okay.
Well, David, do you want to comment on it?
Yeah,
Or other
so
comment?
a constitutional amendment needs to be approved by this board, Supreme Council, and then it has to be voted by the student body. So earliest that this could possibly be implemented is by winter or spring. Spring.
But if we were to put this in there, it would say that the person, whoever we elect, if they don't take that class, whenever we actually put this into the Constitution, they're going to have to be kicked out of their position, which would mean we'd have another opening. Something to consider.
But since the earliest is going to be winter or spring, then whoever we do pick in the fall can take that in consideration. So it shouldn't necessarily be a problem, but it is
Correct.
something to still think about.
But if they don't take the class, and we put this in the Constitution, they don't take the class, and they're not enrolled in the class during the time we actually put this in the Constitution, that would mean we'd have a situation where they're not fulfilling their constitutional obligation, which allowed them to be elected in the first place.
I would recommend implementing this to take effect for next year. Because if we do appoint someone who we deem is qualified and is perfect for this position, but for some reason they just don't take the financial accounting class because they need to transfer out and they need to fulfill other requirements, then we lose that on a very good candidate, and then we have another vacancy. So I would recommend, of course, approving this, but putting it on the ballot for the general election for next year.
I agree with that. Did you want to make a motion, David?
Mm-mm.
Carrie, you had another comment?
Carrie.
So let me ask you, what was the intent? What did you want to have the outcome of this be when you put this in? Besides me telling you.
It's to make sure that whoever goes into office isn't going in there blindly, as in they know exactly what to expect. Because I've taken that class too, so I understand exactly what it does and helps you understand about the whole dynamics of how things work. You have to balance your credits and debits, and how every in there's also a respective out. That's a very important thing for a business affairs person to have, and I think it's very crucial to how they're going to run their role.
So two things that come to mind. Just because I enroll in a class doesn't mean I know what you just said. So I would challenge you that your outcome is not what you're going to get from this. And the other thing is that I believe you need to be a little bit more flexible in your wording because things change. So maybe you might want to quantify what you want them to know, that they must have completed with a satisfactory grade an introduction to an accounting class or a basic accounting class that covers what you want them to know, that understands debits, credits, understanding how to work with spreadsheets. Because I think the problem is classes change. And I'm glad you didn't put like accounting 101 because we don't know that that's always going to be the case, right? So with the Constitution, you never want to be too constrictive.
Or we could put like an equivalent class if they're taking it from another school or they took it in high school or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. But what I'm gonna challenge you right now and saying is that the outcome that you want is we can assume in the best cases that that's what you're going to get, but as written, you're not going to achieve the outcome you want. There will always be a chance that someone will say, I'm in an accounting class, but then I dropped it because must be enrolled in a financial accounting class at date of candidacy. They can withdraw. They could fail, right?
Yeah, but then if they fail, they would not have completed the course, then they'd be kicked out anyway.
Completed or enrolled. Okay, I can complete it, and I've completed it with an F.
Okay, that's
right. I'm just saying your outcome, the outcome that you told me verbally, is not necessarily the outcome that you have listed here.
Yeah. But the only issue is, even if they take the course, let's say they get an A or a B, it doesn't necessarily mean they have all those skills. It just means they got an A or B in the course. So you're always going to have some gray area, but there's not going to be a complete overlap of what you want and what's expected.
Well, I'm going to say this. Why don't you just put satisfactorily completed?
Okay.
I'm just asking you because really, honestly, what you put there is not what you're going to get because you're not asking that. What you're asking for, what you want is not what you're listing there. Be clear about what you want in there because yeah, and someone's always going to skate around, right? But right now, that's a very big loophole.
I have something to suggest.
What?
I wanted to suggest if maybe they had some type of experience to match this the requirement, right? Because it's true, like they could have that class fulfilled, but they don't really show interest. But the position requires them to have some type of experience behind, accounting, behind budgeting, behind like even basic Excel knowledge. So I think that this is, I don't think it's too much of a requirement, but I think it fulfills what the job duties for VP of Business Affairs, right?
In that case, I guess it's just an add-on, like for someone in my position, let's say VP of External Affairs, we deal a lot with government and legislation. Should they also have a requirement to take like introduction to government? I'm just saying, like, just because it just seems a little bit like I love the idea. I just don't know if people would maybe say that it's unfair because they think like, oh, why does my position need to take a class? What about all these other positions? But yeah, just a thought.
Well, I'm also kind of thinking, are we setting a precedent by like making a requirement for the position? Like what about other positions down the line if they also are going to have requirements? I don't want it to be a barrier of entry to people, but at the same time, I also understand and I agree with this particular requirement just because I'm just kind of thinking how it applies to my position, right? Because I'm doing pivot tables and, crazy spreadsheets for budgeting. And I think the next person in my position, not to assume anything, but I don't know if they'd be able to do that. But if someone took the accounting class, I'm sure that's something that they would go over and have the skills to do. So it will support other roles. So I think that's why this one is okay, but I just want to make sure we're not setting a precedent.
Or like a CIS 10 course that covers pivot tables and databases too.
Well, I mean, there's this other thing too, right? I never took any of those courses and I know how to do it. So it's like, I don't want it to be a barrier for entry. So I'm kind of looking at it from both sides of the table, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, my experience has been no Excel, no any database experience until getting into PCC. And also, I think Kelly mentioned, I agree with you on the political American science course. That is definitely helpful.
I just also wanted to point, like, some students here who have been at PCC for a long time, they may have taken, let's just say, an accounting course, but they might have taken it like many years before, which doesn't necessarily mean that they still might have the knowledge. And for some reason, I kind of believe that because I've also taken accounting, I feel like some things that they teach in there, while it's useful, it could really be learned externally. Like you can learn it by yourself. And I feel like whoever becomes VP of Business Affairs, they also have to, be able to learn a lot of things or be taught a lot of things in order to actually succeed. And likewise, like even if you get a job, usually you go in, like they go in knowing that you have no experience and they teach you that. So I don't know if that's something you want to take into account. But yeah.
I'm just thinking how this simulates how things are nowadays. It's like every job requires a college degree, even though necessarily like you're not using it. So it's kind of like that scenario, right? I don't know. I'm just maybe someone like me who knows all this stuff without taking any of these courses, but it's going to be hard to employ. I'm going to be hard to employ if I go out into the workforce today because I don't necessarily have a master's or a BA or something like that.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of you. I think another thing that I just want to bring up is the fact that a lot of people like kind of join organizations and extracurriculars to kind of satisfy or kind of align with their career goals that will help them on the resume. So I feel like maybe a person that's just interested or really passionate to be a part of AS and to want to do business affairs for us and has that interest on the side may not necessarily have taken that class in the past because that's not necessarily their career goal, but that doesn't say otherwise about their passion or their skills in terms of this position.
I totally agree. I mean, our last VP of Affairs was more passionate about films than he was about business. So, and he was great. So, it could go either way.
Ooh, who's Darth Vader? I think the audio's a little messed up.
Kyle, I think your audio's coming in and out.
Hear me now. Yes or no?
You sound like a witness protection program.
It's a Vice documentary.
Try again. Maybe cut your video feed and it'll pick up your audio better.
Hear me right better.
Kind of the same.
Do you want to type it in the chat?
We love
That's right.
At least we know everyone's awake now.
While he's doing that, I do like what David wrote in the chat. And I think my interest for putting this in was because we used to have this as a requirement. And about 10 years ago, it was taken out. And I think,
Carrie, or can I also ask, is there a reason why it was taken out?
I was not AS advisor at that time. I think my other reason for doing this is that you all don't know this, but when you were putting stuff in for when everyone was applying for positions, someone had actually applied for a position, and then when they saw how crowded the field was, they emailed me after the candidates forum and asked to drop and to apply for a position that was vacant.
Oh, T.
So to me, that really said it was more about getting on the board than doing the job. And I don't know if this person had any qualifications or was just looking to get on to the board.
Well, I mean, I guess I can see how it's a barrier, but it's also kind of a protection for us, for our, just the legacy and continuity and everything.
As for Louise's question, I think what we've seen is you all have been very lucky because basically Sharon is your backup bookkeeper and she keeps the accurate books. But this person who does finance really needs to be concentrating on finance. And now, especially with the way we have the money broken out, and in the past, other VPs have been much more on top of that and keeping the books. And in recent years, we have not received financial updates like we should. Kyle, how's it going? Just go for it.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, but it's all broken up, but just do it.
Yikes. Okay. I'm pretty sure someone else can hear me right now. Dang it. I don't know. I tried plugging in different outlets. I put it in headphones. Great. I don't know if I put it in headphones. I plugged them in my computer and I put it in. I took it out again. It didn't work.
So text still isn't working. You might want to type it in the chat because
Yeah, Kyle, we're running out of time. Type it in the chat, please. And I do agree, Christina, we love technology, but it's going to be the death of all of us one day.
Kyle's secretly turning into a like a cyborg, gonna take over, I guess.
I'm done at that.
Okay, so we're gonna help you out. Kyle, we're gonna help you out. So Mackenzie, what I'm hearing from him is that he would like to table this action.
Move on with no action.
Yeah, or we can also move on with no action.
you can just go ahead and move on with no action. So in this case, then we'll move on to the next agenda item C, which is brought to us by Kelly.
Oh, I think you might have it in your email. That's okay.
This one?
Oh, not this one, the other one. Oh, this is for.
These are the ones that you sent me.
You have the international student.
You want the letter? Do you want me to share it?
I sent it I can't speak as a Word document. It should be a PDF. Let me.
Yeah, I've got it.
You have it? Okay, that's good.
Can you see it?
Oh, you know what? I'll just find it for you.
All right. I think I'm sharing. Are you all seeing it?
I can, yeah, okay.
The Word document?
Oh, yes, there you go. That's the Word document. Per Director Olivia Liu's request or suggestion, I basically kind of just updated what the new regulations are, updated our letter in terms of what the new regulations are. I don't know if you want me to read it or.
What changes? What just tell us the changes?
Okay, good. Sorry. So the change was essentially that international students new international students can't enroll in Pasadena City College because it's an online institution. There's no physical set classes on campus. So new international students can no longer be a part of Pasadena City College.
Kelly, it might be helpful if you told us what change. Is this the letter you wrote?
Oh,
Or-
this is a letter that this is our original letter that we already approved of, and I just essentially changed some of the wordings in between the sentences and added some new sentences in terms of supporting the students. Yeah, so there's not too much of a change from our original one. It's just the first part, the updated guidelines issued by the regarding and just it prevents new international students onward from attending Pasadena City College. So that's like the main point, and everything else is just edited in terms of wording and style, but mostly the same.
Can you tell us what it is that you added? Or at least
Oh, this was a while ago. So I added, by disregarding the diversity, talent, and efforts of incoming international students, we are greatly depriving our campus of intellectual and cultural wealth. The new ICE guidelines limit the opportunities for incoming international students and undermine the ability of colleges to include these talents into our communities. So it more relates to the top sentence, which addresses the fact that new students can't attend Pasadena City College. Just essentially changing wording to adhere to the new policy. And then on the bottom, if Mackenzie can scroll down a little bit more. And then instead of, a little bit higher. Instead of saying that the International Student Center will host, we changed it to hosted in a International Student Virtual Town Hall on July 2nd with the resources listed below. And me and Director Olivia Liu, we went over this and she approved of it after I sent it to her. So if you guys think this is good enough, or you guys want to add anything, or have any comments or opinions, we can go ahead and approve of this so we can set it out on our Instagram.
Kelly, you can make a motion.
Yay! I motion to approve of the new updated ICE, PCC Associate Student Support for International Students letter.
I second that motion.
First by Kelly, second by Kyle. Sorry, let me bring up the agenda real quick. All right, then we can go ahead and bring this to a roll call vote. I'll do it based off how I see you on my screens. David.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Kyle.
Yes.
Louise.
Yes.
Alex.
Yeah.
Christina. Tina.
Yes.
Emmanuel.
Yes.
Jasmine.
Yes.
I think that was everyone. Your screens are moving. Wait, Chris, did I get you?
Yes.
Okay. Then motion passes unanimously. So we'll go on to the establishment of a working group for privacy policy. I know we talked last week about actually formally appointing one of these, and so I know we had Jasmine, Jordan, Christina, and Kyle in this group. Is there anybody else who wanted to be a part of this group without breaking quorum? Or is this fully members? Did anybody else want to be part of this working group?
Mackenzie, I missed the names. Can you say them louder, please? Jasmine, who?
We had Jasmine, Jordan, Kyle, Christina.
So can you specify again what this working group is doing? Just real brief, sorry.
So I know some of them have, or Jasmine, since you guys have been having discussions already, do you want to go ahead and let everyone know what it is you're working on?
Yeah, of course. So the Privacy Policy Working Group is working on collecting data first and foremost to see the impact that students face with new technology such as Oratorio, Zoom, or even just having their camera settings on Zoom. So we are collecting that data right now. The biggest concern, though, is the surveillance that used by court. We want to see what the rights are, where the footage is going, and how we as students can support other students, and what suggestions we can bring up to the board after we collect this data. And that's so far what we're working with. And after that, we will either submit a statement or propose a resolution for this for our privacy policy rights as students.
I'm kind of on the fence about joining because this is something I'm really passionate about. But I'm just thinking about when are you meeting and when are we expect, like, what's the timeline to get this?
So our next meeting, it will be on Monday, and sorry, not this upcoming Monday, next Monday, because we have a Labor Day weekend this upcoming weekend. So our next meeting would be on the the 14th of September, and we will further discuss on what kind of data we have collected within these couple weeks, and we will determine whether we need we will submit for folks or we can propose it.
Okay. Hmm.
While Chris is on the fence about whether or not he wants to join, was there anybody else who was interested in this or just any suggestions?
I mean,
Or
my interest is like, so this working group is like going to go ahead and draft policy or reasons why we shouldn't have it or should have it or whatever. But is it, so I know it's not our responsibility to think of alternatives or kind of do research on privacy. I mean, am I right on that or am I wrong on that?
So
correct.
sorry if I'm, oh,
Oh
sorry.
yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, Chris, just to kind of like clarify, like so I think you should just join for at least a meeting or two because we have this discussion on Monday about like what exactly are the roles of us as, or the roles of you all as students. And so we kind of answered all of these questions that were there on Monday. So if you want, I can send you an email of just kind of like briefly what we talked about. So that way it kind of clarifies that, because we kind of just did like next steps moving forward. So yeah, I think like all of your questions that you have, I'll go ahead and send you an email.
Okay, just to save time, I don't know if I have to get permission from Mackenzie or if I nominate myself. I don't know how that works.
I would just put you with this group.
Okay.
So just to clarify so this would be a group to develop a policy recommendation to the college, or is this a policy that you all are trying to make within AS?
No, so I think that would be the main goal, is for the college to come out with its own policy. This group is to just come from a student perspective to get data and solicit sort of like information on how students are feeling towards this whole privacy issue. And we cut it down into two different categories. So there's proctoral, which is one side of the problem. And then there's the privacy issue, which is the general thing. I don't think it's within our purview to create a policy specifically in AS because it's not sweeping, as to where the college policy would be a sweeping privacy policy that professors and faculty and administrators would have to abide by. So I think this is just the beginning stages of us recommending like, hey, we get that we're students and there's an issue with privacy. We're going to get the data for it and then recommend to either the academic senate that we try to push for a privacy policy that the college should put out.
Did anyone else have any comments, questions, or concerns about this working group or the privacy policy before we go ahead and establish the group? Okay, well then in this case, so for this privacy working group, we'll have Kyle, Jasmine, Christina, Chris, and Jordan working on this. Carrie, because do I need a first do I need to bring this to a vote? Yep. Wait.
Like it.
Sorry, David, can you repeat that?
This isn't an action that needs to be taken. You can just make it.
All right. Then we have our working group. Then we'll move on to discussion items. We have discussion item A, appointment rubric, which is brought to us by David. So David, the floor is yours.
Alrighty. So I don't see the mission statement that was tabled for this meeting on here. I was hoping to do that first because that was going to structure how I wanted to go about the appointment rubric. I don't know if we can go over that now.
It's not on the agenda.
We tabled it last meeting. for this meeting.
So administratively, you just need to make sure if it's, Mackenzie, if it's tabled, that you find out how long it's tabled for. If it's tabled for a week, then it needs, typically when you table, it's for a week or until the next meeting. So you need, Francis probably didn't know it needs to be on there. You can pull up the mission statement because it's not part of the listed discussion. You can discuss it in the context of the appointment rubric, but you cannot work on creating or changing the mission statement. So David, does that mess up your appointment rubric?
Yeah, I wanted to do the mission statement first.
Okay, if
So,
it's not on here, you can't discuss it.
okay.
So
I'm
we
just
table
gonna,
both of these things?
yeah, I'm gonna ask that we table the appointment rubric. So I move to table for next meeting.
Second.
We have a first by David, second by Chris. Let me just write this down. All right. Then we'll bring it to a vote then. Wait, okay, were you gonna say something?
No.
I'll go based off my screens. Louise?
Aye.
Alex? Alex?
Aye. Sorry.
Okay. David?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Manuel?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Jasmine?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
Christina? Christina?
Oh, I thought you called me, but aye.
People's screens were moving again. All right, then. These items have been tabled. So we'll move on to, I think that's all. Moving on to discussion item D, which is actually brought to us by Emmanuel, creation of student survey. So Emmanuel, the floor is yours now.
Thank you. So I've had this concern. I recently have been going to campus to try to check out the Wi-Fi lot, kind of just visually estimate a head count, how many people may be studying in their vehicles. So far, I haven't been able to count more than 2 people the times that I've gone. Most of the cars are empty. So I wonder if most of that is staff or are students benefiting from this Wi-Fi lot. I'd like to work with, well, since we're meeting with Candace on Thursday, I'd like to possibly bring up some ideas as to what we can address in these surveys, whether they're technology needs, support. I think David made a good point earlier when it came to restrooms being available for those students that are in the Wi-Fi parking lot. And I just really want to know if y'all can maybe give me some ideas and then be able to present that as well to Candace and possibly collaborating with Lois to help provide one of those surveys. So my main question is, any topics that you as a student think other students may be experiencing as well in need of?
I think that Wi-Fi lab question is a good question to ask because while we're hearing that the school is providing it, I'm sure they have their own data, but we don't really know how many people are using it, or maybe other students aren't aware of that service. So I think it's a good point to bring that up.
So, all right, okay. So I think so early on I did mention that I wanted to push the college to send out printed materials to students. And it's funny because I actually got something from ELAC. Okay, ELAC, a college that I don't even go to, and then they sent me printed materials. And that's funny to me because PCC said that it was very expensive to endeavor sending printed materials to their students, but I'm getting printed materials from a college that I don't go to. And here they mentioned resources that students can easily access. They have Wi-Fi, or they have web links that students can go to. And I think that that's important to think about when we're surveying students. What kind of students are we trying to reach? Homeless students, veteran students, students of color. These are typically students that don't necessarily have the resources they need to thrive in education. And so what questions do we think that we should ask? I think do you have adequate housing? Do you need emergency funding? Do you need a laptop? Do you need Wi-Fi? Does your family need Wi-Fi? Because if your family needs Wi-Fi, then the Wi-Fi that you have, it's going to be interfering with like their needs and stuff. So it's asking a plethora of questions, because a student's needs are very holistic when it comes to their education.
Thank you. I agree with the Wi-Fi with the family. I share a modem with my brother, and he has classes too at Cal State LA. So I sometimes just blame my internet on that, having to share it. So definitely being able to provide hotspots is an option. And you made a good point. How do we reach the students that are struggling with homelessness? If, you know, is there a head count of anyone who has, I guess, considered themselves struggling with housing insecurities? I know that financial aid asks that all the time at the beginning of the school year in your application, but I know that that information isn't accessible to us. So that's the main reason why I wanted to be able to create this survey.
To kind of further the conversation on this list of things, I think a lot of things that we're providing in terms of technology is based on the assumption that students even have a way to get to campus safely. The physical gap is a big problem. Like, you have to come to campus to get a laptop. You have to come to campus and probably even have a car to feel safe in the parking lot to use the Wi-Fi. What if your car doesn't have air conditioning, you know, and it's so hot outside? That, I think, is a huge issue for students, you know, when we're thinking holistically, just that physical gap that they have to go through.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I like to promote sustainability, and I know running your vehicle for multiple hours isn't recommended. Definitely not recommended to idle your vehicle more than 15 minutes. So there's no shade to the parking lot. There's no, it would be nice if it were in the structure, but that's not the case.
So I just want to jump in there because it is lot 3 that's got the Wi-Fi in it, right? I sent that out to you all.
That's the one by IT?
Yeah, off of Del Mar and Bonnie, at the entrance of Cordova.
Wait.
I mean, sorry, Del Mar and Hill.
Yeah,
off the entrance of Cordova. Yeah, sorry, Bonnie's on the other side.
Okay, so there are some questions, because I think Chris hit it right on the head, because we have students who don't have cars.
Right.
I really thought this was in the structure when this happened. I really thought this was in the bottom floor of the structure, because that provides shade. So, and it's going to be a heat wave again this weekend. And the same thing that Chris said, and I think Jasmine even talked about, when I thought this was in the structure, I'm like, why can't we put chairs 10 feet apart, right? And people could walk down there and sit underneath in the structure and work there, right? Because you got folks who don't have vehicles. I think this is a really good conversation to have. I'm also going to remind you all, whose job description is it to run surveys? In your cohort here, in your group here, who's actually constitutionally required to run surveys?
Louise?
Yep. And Louise is making the appropriate contacts, because you talked about talking to Candace Jones. She would certainly know, but her job is not to run surveys. Crystal Colross's job is to run surveys.
Right. I only mentioned Candace because, sorry, I hope I didn't interrupt. I only mentioned it because she asked, I remember bringing up the survey during her discussion, and she was welcoming all advice or suggestions.
So to be productive, make sure you don't start at the beginning. Don't reinvent this wheel.
Right.
I'm going to suggest that you talk with Louise, because she already knows, and she's been asking these questions of IPRO, and she has a contact in Dan. And Dan was actually the one I was going to try and bring on to you she could tell you all how to create a good survey. So I think excellent questions. And I love that whole idea, like, what are we going to do for testing, right? How's that going to work?
Right.
I just I really like the idea for like the whole like, oh yeah, why is it not indoors? This is outside is hot as heck, right? But if you have it indoors and you have chairs, not chairs, sorry, indoors, like under that parking lot with chairs, then there might be a question of you need supervision, because there's gonna people who are gonna take those chairs. From like personal experience of trying to put chairs outdoors for outdoor dining, there has to be someone watching, or assigned to watch, essentially, if we do have a structure like that.
And I'm checking out the comments on YouTube, and yeah, they mentioned that the structure is blocked off. I noticed that as well.
I just think it's kind of strange that we have a parking structure. Some colleges don't have a parking structure. They're just surface parking, and we're not using that to our advantage. You know, it's just sitting there, not holding cars, not providing, you know, the space that students need for shade and for, you know, for safety and for, I mean, you know, I'm just thinking of this, you know, supervision thing. It's actually easier, I think. I don't know, I think we would have to ask health and safety, but I think it's easier to supervise an enclosed area than it would be an open air lot, like, you know, the one that we're using right now. So I think it's just a lot of considerations that go into it.
I went to campus yesterday, and actually lot 5, which is one of the parking structures, is open, but it's only on one level, and it's only for a few hours each day. But like, if that's already open, is there a way that we could like utilize that further, or somehow implement like because it's open for, I think, to use the library. I don't know how long it's going to be open for, but that might be something we could look into.
Yeah, because technically, like when I'm in the parking structure, I get Wi-Fi. So back on campus, I used to use the parking structure, just finish all my homework, so I wouldn't have to bring it in. So I feel like there's already Wi-Fi there, unless they like disable it or decrease their bandwidth.
Yeah, that's a good point. I always did the structure as well. I noticed there was, I found it sad seeing students hanging out against the wall. There was 2 students yesterday when I passed by there, and they were having their lunch, but there was no shade, and they were able to find shade from a tree that was on the curve off of hill. So they had to lean against the wall there. And I noticed another vehicle, the only vehicle that had the AC running, and the person was sitting in the passenger seat. So I assumed this person was studying or doing homework. Besides that, I don't know if students are allowed to be there until 10 p.m. Accessing the Wi-Fi as well. I think that's another issue that should be addressed.
Yeah, because a lot of people have work, so they can get off until 10 and they do homework after 10. So if they don't have Wi-Fi, then it doesn't make sense either. And I think one more thing, Emmanuel, I just wanted to, I don't know if it's related exactly to what you had in mind for the survey, but maybe providing an area, if it's not already been answered, do you prefer online, you know, like instruction, or do you prefer in person? Some people actually prefer the online format that we have now because they think it's more flexible, just to get an idea of what people actually feel about transition.
Sorry, which format are you referring to?
Oh, just like in general, like back on campus versus, you know, having all classes be online.
You're asking me, right?
Oh no, yeah, just to like put it out there if you want to put that.
Oh, right. Yeah, thank you. Definitely. See, I was thinking about. See, I imagine the parking lot being full of students, and then being able to, you know, swing by there safely, place a survey, or maybe some kind of like sticky note that would provide the ASPCC Instagram. And on Instagram, we can create a poll where we don't have to also waste a bunch of paper in creating these surveys. trying to reach these students that are there. We kind of just, maybe even go and paste this this announcement requesting that if they feel comfortable filling out this survey, it's accessible. There's a poll on Instagram, possibly on a story. It's very easy to count and identify who voted yes or no on certain questions. But like I said, I've only seen very few people there. I don't know if students are actually taking advantages at a different time, or if they're not simply because of transportation, like Chris has mentioned. That's a big issue as well.
Out of curiosity, how did you all find out about Lot 3?
I think it was the email you
forwarded.
Instagram.
Well, before you forwarded the email, Carrie, I actually got that email in my edu email address, just from an email blast. So.
Okay.
During my Welcome Week event, Candace Jones was talking at it, and she mentioned it there, and it's she linked to the Virtual Help Center on PCC's website.
So
I noticed Mesa posted up too recently.
Let me read to you what's coming out on the YouTube chat. Enith Reyes is saying that there's no shade. The structure entrance is blocked off. She said maybe during the hours when it is really hot, we can have somehow provide cold water bottles. And then she's also saying there is no shade, but just a tree in the corner. And most people in that parking lot are just staff parking. Is there students that can be there till midnight? I'm not quite sure what she meant. I think she wants to know if she can be there till midnight. So that's just responses coming off of the YouTube regarding this.
8 p.m.
I think it's till 10.
Yeah, normally it was 10. Before COVID.
Looking at some of the classes, we still have night classes, so I think it should go for longer if that's not the case already.
Well, I think night classes go till 10.
Oh, okay, all right.
On the PCC website, it actually says that the service is available every day from 7:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. and that you must stay in your vehicle and that there is no restrooms or any other facilities that will be no restrooms are available and access to campus facilities is prohibited.
Wow.
That'll definitely keep away people. The restroom part.
Let me ask you all this. How can we coalesce this conversation? I think it's a very good discovery question. But now I would like to see, and because usually you have these discussions and they lead to moving to creation of an action item. Where do you all want to go with this?
Personally, I would like to bring it back. So just on the table.
Well, no, I mean, that's fine. We can keep talking about it. But my thing is, if we bring it back, what are you going to ask us to do? Right? We need to shape this conversation.
Right. Definitely.
What do you want?
Review the questions that we've come up with. I will be reaching out to Lois, and hopefully there's some sort of template we can all edit.
Okay, so then this is what you're going to do, Emmanuel, because I didn't hear a lot of questions. I just heard comments, right? So what you need to do is you need to create a document, and so all of you, when you start doing these discussion items, you need to have a point in the end what you want done. So if the goal is that you're going to do a survey, I would suggest that you talk to Louise, because that is her area that she covers, and that you create some of these questions, right? And then that's brought back as if you want to have a discussion with the group so that they can discuss it more, or if you want to vote on it to go through, you can also bring it up as an action item. I don't believe that if this is something you're doing in the course of your regular job, I'm not sure that it's required that you get the board approval. I'll leave it up to Mackenzie if she wants it to, if every action wants to be approved. So But what I'm trying to say is, I want you to shape this in a way that comes out to some sort of action.
I think if anything, we could bring up any suggestions that we've had here to that technology survey feedback that Candace asked us for, because I think this is obviously pertains to technology access for students, and this obviously needs to be addressed. Do students need more supports on campus while they're on campus? Do they need to stay there longer? So this is, in that way we could take that conversation.
I agree. It's also not limited just to technology though. Another concern that I have is reaching administration. A lot of their office hours are correlating with the events that we are taking part of. And I know that there's a lot of clubs, meetings as well, but most administration, as to some of the emails I've received, they're available between 12 and 1. And that's kind of difficult, I think, especially for administration. I think it should be available a little bit more than that for office hours.
Yeah, just one more thing, last thing before we move on, or whatever Mackenzie has in mind. I wanted to mention or bring up that I think there's also like a line between like what we're allowed to do, what the students are actually allowed to do on campus, and what we want for them as well. So maybe like trying to figure out that line between the policy area or whatever the school actually allows.
Right. Yeah, I think this will benefit Candace. All of these suggestions, I've noted them down as well. And from there, possibly holding a survey through AS. But obviously, we have to make sure we don't cross any line.
Like Carrie mentioned, I was connected to Louise because
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes,
Did you hear anything I said, or do I need to repeat it all?
repeat it all.
please.
Like Carrie mentioned, Emmanuel, I would connect with Louise on surveys because this is her expertise, and you guys can work together to sort of put together what it is you'll want to see in the survey, because some of these we may be able to find the answers for them already, or maybe we do need the survey. And so I'll connect with Louise on that. We can prepare questions that are tech related for Candace when we attend that meeting. And also for the sake of time, I'm going to recommend we move on with this item unless someone has something they urgently want to throw in.
So thank you.
Carrie, any last comments on this item?
No, I'm just typing information into the Zoom chat, Emmanuel. I gave out your email so people can give you feedback.
No problem. Thank you.
Sorry, really quick, Mackenzie. Sorry. Okay, really quick. I know that a lot of people have been asking me about like surveys and data. So would it be allowed to just like, I know it's like kind of like a group in a sense because there are multiple people asking the same questions. So should I just keep it all to myself and report back afterwards, or can I work with like 2 people?
I think you can work with other people.
Okay, I don't want to like break any rules. Okay, cool. Okay, thank you.
If you're working with other people.
Okay.
Working for ELAC.
The main thing to remember right now is that you just can't meet with you can't have 3 other voting members. Actually, you can have 3, you can't have 4. 5 is your quorum. So if you can meet in groups of 4, but remember that David and Kyle do not count towards quorum. They count and they're important to us, just not for quorum.
We value them very much. Quorum, different. So we'll move on then with the agenda because we are over on time. We don't have any extra invited guests we need to go through. Carrie, we don't have any AS training we want to squeeze in because we're over.
No, the only thing I do want to ask is, since we do have this time, we can have a discussion. I do really want to schedule Dan. Is that Friday 1 to 3 time slot still open for you all?
For this week?
No, not this week. I have to give her a week's notice, so probably next week.
What is it going to be about?
As long as
it's about running surveys. So if you're not interested about doing a survey, you don't have to come.
Sounds good.
Okay. So I will set that up for next week, Friday, with Dan from IPRO. The other thing too is that I'm going to suggest to Mackenzie that as we get closer to folks actually having their own committee members, that you pick maybe one AS member to work with this week on and let them be a guest chair so they can get the feel for how to run a meeting, what's it like, all of that, so they can understand and they can practice to handle their meetings, okay? So that's a suggestion. Other than that, let's roll.
Yeah, like Ray mentioned, we can set up times to practice chairing your meetings and everything. If you need to go over Zoom training, we can go through that. We're gonna make sure you're all better at running Zoom than I am. That's gonna be our goal for this. Yeah, we'll go ahead and move on. We're running low time. Let's see, appointment to college-wide committees. I don't have any other ones besides the ones I was given last time. Carrie, do we have any extra ones? No. All right, appointment to AS committees. No one has their committees yet. Bill acceptance. Kelly, you had one.
Yes, I do have one. It's probably this time there's a actual like I would say like a document. So if you could pull that up so everyone can just.
Kelly, was this sent to the group beforehand?
Oh. I
my-
have a draft ready. Like I said, I had a draft ready for last week. I was gonna send it, but then like we got carried away. So let me go ahead and send that draft.
My recommendation is that you not, I never recommend that you all pass something without having taken the time to thoroughly read it first.
Mm-hmm.
So my recommendation is that you send this out now and you bring it back next week. You have a standing bill acceptance item. If you all want to just accept it and go with her word, then that's fine. But my advice is that you take the time to read it.
This one was emailed to people too. But we forgot to remind people to go read over it. But they do have this in their emails.
Okay, that's fine.
I see. Okay, so I guess in general, the summary of this would be that it bans abusive student loan servicing practices. It makes sure there's like a minimum standard so that all payments and paperwork retention and all of these staffs are accurately trained. It establishes the student borrower advocate within the DBO so that they're responsible for, so establish the persons that's responsible for reviewing the complaints and gathering the data and correlating with the agencies. And making sure that there's additional market monitoring authorities to make sure that the data is accurate to the student loan servicing industry. In general, the really big summary is that it creates more transparency for student loans and for students who are actually needing to take out these loans for college. And if you guys have read it, I guess it would be more clear in that sense, but are there any questions on this?
Actually, mine looks like he'd like to review it. So did everybody want more time to review this and we would approve it next meeting then so you can have a chance to go through everything then?
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
I'm running out of time.
Then, Kelly, do you mind if we just bring this back next week then?
Yeah, that's okay.
Then, in that case, we can move on with the agenda then. I'll send a couple of reminders for what we all should do after this meeting. And one of them will be to go over this. Let's see. We'll move on then with the agenda to public comment on non-agenda items. Carrie, do we have any comments on the YouTube?
Sorry, hold on. Nope, just that the ones that I've read from you. Oh, there was a question from the Courier. They wanted to know, it was for Crystal Carras. They wanted to know if the fall retreat was for PCC students. And I just referred him to Crystal. This is actually the best engagement you've had. So yeah, but you've heard all the comments.
Then we'll move on to announcements. Did anybody have any announcements for any events they know that are going on or reminders or anything?
I know of a few donation drives. I'd like to share those with you sometime this weekend.
But there's a meeting with Candace tomorrow at 10 if anyone wants to join, and then the ICC meeting for me is Friday if anyone wants to come. Let's talk about privacy.
What time is the ICC meeting, Chris?
12 to 1. Might go a little bit over, but I'll try to keep it an hour because Carrie does have to go earlier.
our meetings we try not to go over, but sometimes it does if you have something important.
Yeah, Mackenzie knows. Like sometimes, especially like the initial meetings, before the semester, there's a lot of stuff. So, but I'll try to keep it short.
And I'll send you all a reminder too about those meetings so we can all remember. Did anybody else have any other announcements they want to throw out there?
So College Council, their first meeting for the semester is on September 17th. I just wanted to remind you all that AS does get 3 voting representatives on College Council, so it's important that we use all those 3 voting members. Mackenzie's on there, but we should have 2 more. So just putting that out there. Latest, we can probably appoint some at his next meeting.
So actually, I probably need to talk to Crystal about that again. But from my knowledge, they've always asked for 1 rep, and we've always had. I don't know if that's
Well, I guess they've been cutting it short then because our administrative procedures and our board bylaws say that AS gets 3 representatives. And I can link that bylaw.
I'll follow up with them on that. Anybody have another announcement? No? Okay. Then let's see. Our next meeting will be September 9th, 2020. Any agenda items sent by September 3rd, 11:59, including your supplemental items. Please email it to me and you can CC Francis. Other than that, then I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting at 2:19 p.m.
I'd like to move that motion.
I second.
Okay, first by Kelly and second by Luis. All right. We'll bring this to a vote based on how I see you on my screen. Alex, how do you vote?
Was that me?
Yeah.
Oh, aye.
Luis?
Aye.
David?
Oh, your mic is cutting, or it's really, yeah.
Okay. David?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Emmanuel?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Wait, is anyone else even left? No? Okay, that's all of us. The meeting adjourned. Let me stop sharing my screen then. God, I have to yell at this thing for it to hear me.
Release your anger, Mackenzie.
I feel that.
Rage against the dying of the light.
Okay, I'll get Jessica's contact and so we can.
Okay. All right, bye, y'all.
Quick question to you all.
Oh.
Oh, that's okay. I'll ask Mackenzie.
We're all here.
Well, my
Okay, I won't leave yet.
So this whole vote thing, we have to do it this way because of it's just good transparency. But I was suggesting maybe we just get in the habit because we say we call it by who's on Mackenzie's screen. Oh, that's okay. I'll ask Huh? It is chaotic. Why don't we just agree that the vote will be taken in order that's listed on the agenda? So that way so you're ready. So it's gonna go Christopher, Christina, Louise, Alex, Jack. So it goes through, and that way you're not waiting for your name, or if it goes out, if you hear Chris goes yes, then Christina, automatically you can vote. So might I suggest that as a practice? And we're still live.
I stopped it. Hold on.
Nope.
Let me go back to the YouTube. I posted it on there. Is it still going?
Yep.
Yes.
Give me a second. I don't know what's. All right, so